Hey guys, it's Mr. Rogers here. Today we're going to talk about area. Okay, and what I mean by area is very similar to perimeter in a way, but instead of being perimeter, the space around the shape, area is the space within of a shape. Okay, so area is going to look at the amount of space that's inside of a shape. So it's going to look inside of the shape instead of the outside, like perimeter. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you like two different ways that area can be like shown to you through like a word type problem or like a figure, and you have to figure out the area of the whole figure. Okay, so let's go into like the word type problems where it gives you like a word problem and it wants you to figure out area. So if I was to tell you, or I was to give you the word problem, a rectangle measuring 7 centimeters by 4 centimeters. Okay? So when you come across of a word problem, your first step obviously is to read the word problem, but then you need to like go back and reread the problem again and underline or circle the important parts that's being like discussed. So if I was to go back to my word problem, I would probably underline rectangle because that's the shape I'm working with, and then 7 centimeters by 4 centimeters. Okay, so the difficult thing with area is each shape or each polygon that you come across of in the math classroom or the math world is a very specific area formula. Okay, and you're just going to have to remember these formulas, and I promise the more you go through school and the higher you get in grades, it becomes easier to remember it. Okay, because you might be starting out with area now, but by the time you get close to being done with school, you will have these formulas memorized. Okay, so I know my area of a rectangle, okay, and I'm going to write area. Okay, I know my area of a rectangle is length times width. Okay, so if I look at a rectangle, I'm going to draw like a rectangle up here. It's talking about the length and the width. The length being long ways and the width being up and down. Okay, so if I draw a model, which that should be the next thing you look at in a word problem after you've underlined the important parts, is drawing a model. So if I look at a model based on my word problem I have up here, okay, I have 7 centimeters and 4 centimeters. Notice in this specific word problem, it doesn't talk about which length is what measurement and what width is what measurement. So you can be like creative. You can put 7 centimeters as the width and 4 centimeters by the length, or vice versa. Okay, what I did, I just put 7 centimeters as my width and 4 centimeters as my length. Okay, this is just a model to help you like understand and see what your word problem is saying. Okay, so my area of a rectangle is length times width. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this 7 and I'm going to multiply it by 4. Okay, so I'm going to abbreviate area to A. So my area is equal to 7 centimeters times 4 centimeters. Okay. Notice my multiplication sign. I'm representing it by a little dot. That's just a quick way to show that you're multiplying something. Okay. So I know 7 times 4 is 28. Okay. So 7 centimeters times 4 centimeters is 28. Okay, in a word problem, most times a word problem will have a unit that it's talking about. Okay, so in this case, my unit is centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to bring centimeters down here with 28. Okay, area is a little different when we work on our units. When you're doing perimeter, all you have to have is your number and your unit. So if I was talking about perimeter, my answer would just be 28 centimeters. I'm talking about area. Okay, so since area is the amount of space inside of a shape, okay, so since area is the amount of space that's inside of it, it's going to be measured in squares. Okay, so it's going to be your unit that you're using and you're squaring it. Okay, so it's going to be like just unit squared. So instead of it being just centimeters, it's going to be centimeters squared. Or I could write it as 28 square centimeters. Either way is fine, okay? Just with area, you need to make sure your unit is being like squared, okay? That's an important part of area. Let's look at another example. All right, so if you look on my board, I have another word problem. A square with sides of 6 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to underline square because that's the shape I'm looking at. And I'm going to underline 6 centimeters. So that's the measurement of each side. Okay, so if I was to represent this by a model, start that over. I'm going to draw a square. Okay, and my sides are 6 centimeters. Okay, I'm just going to do one side because I know in a square all sides are equal. So I know all these are 6 centimeters. Okay, I wrote it out just in case you needed it. Okay, so again, a square has a different area formula than a rectangle. Okay, you're just going to have to remember these area formulas, but I promise it gets easier. And the square area formula is so easy, you can probably remember it right now. Okay, the area of a square, and I'm going to abbreviate area by A, is just side squared. So it's taking one side and timesing it by, that's just timesing it by itself. Okay, so if I look right here, if I bring my area down, I know each side is 6. Okay, so I'm going to have 6, and I'm going to square that. Okay, so if you look, you might be wondering what this means, 6 squared. All this means is you're taking 6 and you're multiplying it by yourself. Okay, so I'm going to keep it as 6 squared, or I'm going to write it out as 6 times 6. You're just multiplying the number by itself. Okay, I know 6 times 6 is 36. Okay, so I'm going to bring my units over, and my units with centimeters. Okay, and remember in area, you're using units squared. Okay, so I'm going to square my units. So my area of a square that has sides of 6 centimeters is 36 centimeters cubed, or squared. Or no, it's centimeters cubed, or centimeters squared. Sorry guys, I'm having a rough day today. Centimeters squared. Okay, so let's look at a different way an area problem can be written out for you. All right, so let's look at this figure I have on my board. Okay, sometimes when you're in the math classroom and you're talking about area, you could be giving a big figure and you need to figure out the area of that figure. And that figure could have multiple polygons inside of it. Okay, so on my board, I have drawn out a shape, okay, and I've put some measurements all around this shape. Okay, if you look closely at this figure that I've drawn on my board, you can see that there are 2 figures on it. Okay, if you use your imagination right here, because it's an open shape, if I was to draw like a little line right here, right in the middle, up at the top, okay, you could see I have a rectangle and a square. Okay, when you're working with a figure that has different polygons, my best advice for you is to work with shapes that you know the formulas of area to. Okay, so in this case, in this problem, I split this figure into 2 polygons, a rectangle and a square, because I know my rectangle area formula and a square formula for area. Really easy. So this is going to make my life easier on figuring out the answer of this problem. Okay, So if I look right here, I split my figure into two figures. Okay, so my top shape, I have a rectangle. I'm just going to put rectangle. And then I have a square at the bottom. And I'm just putting square. Okay, so now I can look at my measurements and figure out the area of this. Okay, so if I look up here at my rectangle, I have 3 centimeters. That is my width. And 8 centimeters as my length. Okay, I know the area of a rectangle is length times width. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply 3 centimeters by 8 centimeters. So I'm going to do area equals 3 times 8. And 3 times 8 is 24. Okay? I'm going to bring this 24 out to the side. Okay? And I'm going to put that as my rectangle. Okay? Because that's the measurement of my area of a rectangle. Okay? And notice with my units, I put units squared. Okay? So now if I look at my square down here, I know an area of a square. Well, this isn't a square. Sorry. I'm going to say this is a rectangle. That's going to help you out a little easier. Okay, I'm going to say another rectangle. Okay, so I know the area of a rectangle is length times width. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to multiply 7 centimeters by 5 centimeters. Okay, so all I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply 7 times 5, and I know this area is going to be equal to 35 centimeters squared. Okay, I'm going to bring this out to the side. 35 centimeters squared. And that's my second rectangle. Okay, so now what you're going to do in this figure, because you want the area of the whole figure, you're going to add up these two areas that you got for each polygon. So I'm going to take 24 centimeters cubed, or squared. I'm sorry, I keep calling it cubed. It's squared. 24 centimeters squared. I'm going to add 35 centimeters squared. Okay, my area of this figure is going to be 59 centimeters squared. How I got that is, I'll show you, 24 and I added 35. 4 plus 5 is 9, 2 plus 3 is 5. So the answer of the area of this whole figure is 59 centimeters squared. Okay, let's look at one more example of a figure like this to figure out the area. All right, so if you look on my board, I have a very similar shape to what I just figured out the area of too. Okay, so I have a figure that has 7 centimeters, 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 4 centimeters, and 6 centimeters. Okay, remember my advice for you when you're giving a figure like this and you're told to figure out the area is to split it up into shapes that you know. Okay, shapes that you're familiar with the area. Okay, so if I look at the shape, and I was to split this up, so I'm going to draw an imaginary line, splitting my shapes up. Okay, I notice a rectangle over here and a rectangle over here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write the shapes that I see. A rectangle and a rectangle. Okay, so I just see two different rectangles when I split the figure into different shapes. Okay, so if I look over here to my left, this is the shape I'm going to work on. So I'm going to look at this rectangle. Okay, remember an area of a rectangle is length times width. Okay, so I'm going to look at 7 centimeters and 6 centimeters. I'm going to multiply them together to get the area. Okay, so I'm going to multiply it 7 times 6. Okay, this area of this rectangle on the left is 42 centimeters squared. Okay, I'm going to write that off to the side right here. 42 centimeters squared is rectangle 1. I'm going to label it rectangle 1. Okay, and all I did was I multiplied my length and my width to get the area. Okay, now my second rectangle, the rectangle off to the right, I'm going to look at the 5 centimeters and the 4 centimeters. Again, the area of a rectangle is length times width. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply 5 centimeters by 4 centimeters. Okay, 5 times 4 is 20. So my area of this rectangle is 20 centimeters squared. So I'm going to bring that out to the side right here. 20 centimeters squared, and that's rectangle 2. Okay, so now what I got to do to figure out the area of the whole shape, I got to add 42 and 20. Okay, if I add 42 and 20, 2 plus 0 is 2, 4 plus 2 is 6. So my area of the whole shape is 62 centimeters squared. Okay, all I did was I split that figure into two separate shapes and figured out the area of each shape and added them up together. Okay, area is not that bad. Again, you have a lot of formulas that you have to remember with area. But once you memorize those formulas, you'll be good as new. I hope this video helped you guys with area. Until next time, have a good day.